Hi, this is Isabel tonight. So I wanted to do this broadcast because I know a lot of people here on YouTube ask for this, the future of jobs, also the trends. I had a message that said, talk about engineers in Switzerland. So I've been wanting to make this video, just had to find the time. So I wanted to make it live so that people can ask questions. Again, this is my first live on Facebook. on YouTube, I'm using a new tool called StreamYard. So I'm not quite sure how it works exactly yet, but I'm sure I'll manage to do this session today. So this is a web conference basically to share my findings with you in terms of basically the skills that are needed in Switzerland. So feel free to ask comments. I will look at the same time. And hopefully, within 45 minutes, 1 hour, you'll get a good grasp on the skills needed to be successful in Switzerland. Also coming up on Friday, I will share the video that I made with Isabel Nicola Johnson. She will talk about how to start a business, an online business in Switzerland. And she really did what I call a portable career. So she'll talk about how she did this, which is also linked to my video, how to get a job in Switzerland in 48 hours, where I talk about creating your own job, which is also linked to what I will, my conclusion today, basically. So it will be in several parts. The first part, I want to talk about, hi, I have someone that just joined in. Again, I'm looking at the screen and I'm looking at my notes at the same time. So if I mispronounce the name or I don't spell it right, I have Aditya. Dear Isabel, I'm from India. I'm looking for a job in Switzerland. Okay. So what I will do is make sure that if you ask questions, they're linked to the topic. Because if you say, I'm just looking for a job in Switzerland, that's a little bit broad. So since we're talking about the Swiss trends, so maybe we focus on that for this particular video today. So it will be different parts. So the first part, I'm going to share with you my findings, the analysis of a report, which I will post below. It's basically the skill shortage, and it was done by ADECCO. So I will share all the links of the references that I make so you can look for yourself and get more information. So I'm just giving you the highlights. And then if you want to find more, you can click on the links that I will post and get more information. So basically, there's some good news, and the good news is that there is a skill shortage in Switzerland. There are a lot of opportunities for individuals. Again, I'm not going to get into the work permits here, but just to get an idea of the market, it's definitely a growing market. There's opportunities for people with the right skills. So what I mean by the right skills is not necessarily education, because sometimes people think that they're lacking education, which could be the case. But most of the time, it's just they're lacking skills that are actually needed in the Swiss market. So you could have a PhD, but if it's in a field that's not relevant, it's not going to be helpful. If you have, for example, a technical diploma in watchmaking, which is quite popular in Geneva, then you're going to get a job. Or if you know, for example, if you have a diploma to take care of children, you're going to get a job, because there's a big need for nurseries and child caretakers, etc. So things like this, you see, skills not necessarily equals education and more diplomas. It just means the right diploma and the right skills for the Swiss market. So that's my first message. So in general, we have a skill shortage, again, according to this survey, and you're welcome to read it. It was done by an ADECCO analysis that was done, so you can read it. So the first 5 areas or growth sectors or skill shortages in Switzerland are as follows. So you have engineering jobs that are needed. That's number 1. So if you're an engineer, this is the question I had on YouTube. What about engineers? That's the perfect career to have in Switzerland. Big need, mostly for electronic engineers. So if that's your field, you have definitely a competitive advantage. Now, it doesn't mean just having a diploma is enough. And that's why when I talk about finding a job in Switzerland, it's really more about, selling yourself as well, knowing how to interview, knowing how to network. So just sending a resume through a job board is not enough anymore these days. You need the right skills, and that's what I'm guiding you today about, which are the areas or the sectors that are really promising. But then you also need to know how to go about the Swiss market, which is linked to culture, networking, knowing people, etc., etc. So number 2, technicians. So you see when I say it's not linked to education, technicians, we're talking about air conditioning and heating specialists, and I'm just taking what was in the report. So this is the number 2 skill shortage. So we're talking about technical skills there in something that's very basic for potentially homes and things like that, or maybe inside companies. So it's a maintenance type of work, but that's number 2. Number 3, fiduciary. So fiduciary is basically anything linked to accounting, auditors, tax people, etc., etc. So in Switzerland, it's quite big, actually. You have a lot of what is called family office. So family office is basically professionals that are taking care of people's finances, usually rich people's finances. But it's quite a big domain. So if you're very good with finance and fund management and so forth, it's a huge area in Switzerland, especially now as there is also more and more talks about blockchain and coins offerings and all that. There's going to be also jobs that are linked to the sector that's called fintech. So that's just me talking here. It's not in the report, but it's linked to accounting, finance, etc. Number 4, as the growth area, IT jobs. Of course, no surprise there. I think it's probably not just Switzerland, but if you're in IT, especially development, and I'll get to that in a minute, but anything linked with cloud and so forth, it's quite in demand. I've also browsed the web for jobs that are in platforms. Right now in job boards, lots of IT jobs. So again, you need those skills, which again, not necessarily linked to so many years of studies, but you just need the right technology. And those can be different year to year. I remember the time when I was working in human resources, we were looking for PeopleSoft individuals, people who knew how to do PeopleSoft, and now it's completely different. So it's trends as well, and the technology that people are looking for. So that's number 4. And number 5, and I think it will come with no surprise there, medicine and pharma. And I think probably today you probably see that as more realistic than ever with what's going on in the world. We need medical doctors. We need people that understand disease. We need people that can also do the pharma, biopharma, etc. That's going to be huge in the future as well. As we're getting older, we're going to age and live longer, so we will need care for this and new medications potentially to make us live longer. So the whole area of pharma is huge. So if you're looking for a career potential, I would say there's lots there. I know in Switzerland, lots of pharma industries, and it's definitely a big sector in Switzerland. So it goes out there with the other 4 I just mentioned. So here we go. You've watched probably the first 10 minutes of this video. You already know what are the top 5 sectors, growth sectors in Switzerland where skills are needed, people are needed. And if you're applying for a job, you have a good chance in those sectors. So now I'm going to go region by region, because I think it's important to see where are the jobs. And again, depending on your strategy, I always tell expats, go where there's more than just one particular company that you can work for. However, I'm not completely changing my mind, but when I was reading this report, I also saw that there's other type of sectors that are available in regions that are a little bit less popular in the middle of Switzerland, for example. So what you want to do after this video is to look at the report and see where are the areas where there's maybe other jobs than the ones I will mention now, which are in the big regions of Switzerland. So I still don't see any comments yet. Okay. So the first one I get a lot of questions about, it's Zurich and the German-speaking part of Switzerland. So Zurich is definitely a big spot for expats. There's opportunities. Obviously, people ask me, is that a good spot for me? Is there opportunities over there? I think Zurich is quite lively. You can find also a lot of English-speaking jobs in Zurich because, obviously it's quite international. A lot of tech going on over there for sure. So now what I saw in the report as the number one career opportunity there is engineering again. So you will see that the order changes depending on where you're looking for a job in Switzerland. So for the German-speaking part, engineers are top. So if you're an engineer, that's definitely, it answers the question I received in YouTube. If you're an engineer, you want to be in Zurich. Number two, IT is in the German-speaking part. Then you have all these tax auditors, accountants, and all that as number three. Number four, technicians, and number five, medicine and pharma. So that's the order. So if you're targeting the Swiss-German part, probably your two top roles that you will find or that where their skills really needed would be engineers and IT. So just be aware of that as I'm going through the analysis. Maybe thinking at the same time, is that your skill set or are you very far from it? Again, I'll get to job boards afterwards to give you also other growth areas. For the French-speaking part, what are the top skills needed? So for this French-speaking part, we have number one, and that's a surprise actually because I live close to the French-speaking part of Switzerland, and I would say probably the international organizations are quite big, and banking, I would say those would have been the two on the top of my head. And when I look at the report, the first two are technicians and fiduciaries. So fiduciaries, yes, because I talked about the home office, the family office and accountants, and definitely all these people are quite in demand. But I'm really surprised that I don't have international development, for example, or maybe I would have put banking as number one, but it's really technicians. So again, not necessarily the PhDs and the MBA. So when people say, do I need to get another degree and so forth? Again, look at the Swiss skill set needed and see how it matches. I guess that's my common message for today, is that education needs to be linked to an actual market. So just because you have a PhD from a big university in your country doesn't mean it's going to have value in the Swiss market in a particular region. So again, for French speaking, what the Swiss market wants is technicians. Again, those heating technicians, air conditioning, that was in the report, more the maintenance, logistics. Number two, fiduciary. So again, think accounting, think auditing, tax, all that stuff. And number three, medicine and pharma. And there I'm not surprised because I knew pharma was quite big in the French-speaking part. There's lots of companies actually between here and Lausanne, between Geneva and Lausanne. So it's quite a hub. Also in Basel, there's a big pharma hub. So there I wasn't surprised. But the first two, I was really a little bit surprised. I would have put international development or banking as number one. French and Italian, Switzerland. So here, again, top number one is technicians. So again, those maintenance jobs, technical jobs that are needed. So I've already talked with recruiters before who said probably the hardest people to find, it's really those people that are highly qualified for a machine, for example, can repair machines, who can fix things and do maintenance is the word I'm looking for. So again, those people tend to have a non-education, non-traditional university type of background. They may have, straight out of high school. They may have done some qualifications for those jobs. So those are the number ones, again, in the French-speaking part and in the Italian part. Number two, they are fiduciary jobs. So again, tax, auditing, accounting. And number three, medicine and pharma. So they're very similar, French-speaking and Italian, very similar skill shortages. So if you are a professional in any of these three categories, you're in the right field, I would say. So before I move forward, because I want to now talk about job boards. Because what I did is when I was looking at this report, I wanted to actually go to the job boards and see if there was the same type of information, if I found those same jobs that were discussed in the report in the job boards. So what I found is that to some extent it is the case. You have a lot of engineers needed, a lot of people in tax and accounting and finance, many jobs. However, I found that there's also other opportunities. So it doesn't mean if you don't have those skills that the market is close to you. You can still make it. You can still find something that's relevant. So when I did my research, I used 3 job boards basically that I will share with you. They're the general job boards I would really encourage you to look at. So it's called Neuvoo.ch, Indeed.ch. So those are really the market at large. So if you type Switzerland, you will have the market at large, and you can't go wrong. Of course, I've been sharing in my videos a lot of other job boards, but I think with these, you can really do some general market assessment. So when you look at the market, you will find that many jobs are in IT. So that's also in the report, so no surprise there. However, I did find that you have many jobs in banking. So my impression and my experience with the Swiss market was actually made a reality. Even though it's not in the report, there's also a lot of needs in banking, even though, banking in Switzerland has gone through a lot in the recent years, and, it's changing and there's new rules. So it's also, a field where there's lots going on right now. But in Switzerland, there's still needs for jobs in banking. They have a lot of programs. They're recruiting sometimes, interns, young, and then they grow them from within, which would be the case, for example, at UBS. So if you're young and you want to enter, there's definitely a lot of opportunities in banking. And the other one that I found where there's also a lot of vacancies, which I think is one of those that can go anywhere, it's sales. So if you're a salesperson, we talk about sales in a shop or sales for a company, or sales can get you anywhere. And that's what I like about sales, is that it's one of those professions where you can really take it and do different things with it. So it probably would go in my category of the portable careers, because if you can sell in your home country, you can sell in Switzerland, probably with some training. So it's not a highly technical field where you can only practice it in certain areas. So if I look at the job market, like doctors or pharma and all that, sometimes it's very linked to your local market. So, and I used this example for doctors before, you can't necessarily practice medicine everywhere. So it's a little bit tough sometimes when you want to be a worldwide expat and be able to take your career anywhere. So I have a question from Zakaria. Can I ask you about developers in Switzerland? Sure, if I can answer. Yeah, developers, they're part of the IT, so there's a big need, and a lot of companies now want to do their own startup, and fintech is getting bigger. So everyone needs developers right now, just like they would need copywriters, and people now work online and have their startup. So yeah, it's one of those professions that are quite in demand right now. So it will take you anywhere. I have one of my channel audience viewer who found a job in Switzerland. He was a developer, so it took him a little while, but he found something eventually, and he came. So if you're especially from the European region, you don't have such a permit issue, so your chances are a little bit higher because you're in demand. Whereas if you're coming from non-EU, even though you're a developer and it's in need, still the permit would still get in the way. So the chances are diminishing. But if you're European, I would say, and you have good background, it's definitely possible, because this gentleman did it. He managed to find a job. So it shows that it's possible if you have a good background, good resume, and you're good at what you do. You have a background, a tracking record. I think that's possible. So yeah, IT number 1, banking number 2, sales and fiduciary. That's what I found when I was looking through the job boards as the market, the needs. And of course, you have all these jobs. When you look at the report, it will show you that the jobs like cleaning and beauticians and all those are actually not really in demand. But if you look at the job boards, you see that there's still, Switzerland still needs a lot of hands. Actually, there's I saw a lot of cleaning jobs for whatever reason. So yeah, you have, when people ask me about the not so professional jobs, there's this bubble there in Switzerland of those technical jobs, not necessarily high education jobs that are quite in need. You just need to learn the local language and prepare yourself. I responded to a request someone made about what do I need to do, and my response on video was prepare yourself, put some money aside, learn French language, and then you come to Switzerland and you can work, you're ready to work. I'm not EU, sadly, says Zakaria. Yes, that's complicated if you're not EU, even though you fit the shortage, the skill shortage, because then we get into this whole permit issue, which is another situation that's hard to manage for employers. And there's going to be a new votation I just saw about immigration. So I try to keep up with what's going on in terms of immigration and the new rules. It changes quite a bit, year to year. So you speak French. Yeah, that's good. That's very good. I think it helps. But again, with the permit, right now it's going to be complicated unless you would have a family member or someone that would help you get that permit. But again, without guarantee. So yeah, I can't really talk for non-EU about getting the permit. I've made a whole video on that called "Non-EU Wants a Job," and I explained the different ways to go about it. But again, it's getting more and more difficult, I think, nowadays to get a job as a non-EU in Switzerland. The best way is to come with family or to apply at the international organizations. So probably from the top of my head, like this in the conference tonight, I would say the not-for-profit, the UN, United Nations, where you could apply and you don't need you don't have a work permit issue. That's probably the easiest way. And if that doesn't work, then sometimes I tell people just look at it a little bit broader. Just because Switzerland has the permit situation right now and it gets complicated to enter, it's not the only country. So there's lots of other countries that might be a bit more flexible, and they do need those skills as well. So my report is for Switzerland because I know that's the focus of my channel. But you have many countries where if you go to Canada, US, Australia, even other European countries, they also need the same skill set because those tend to be linked to the future of jobs and the future of the economy. So if you have those skill set, and Switzerland, for whatever reason, is not easy to enter, there's many other countries that you should and could test as well to see if you can enter those countries and you could have a great career. So again, I think sometimes people think about Switzerland more for the lifestyle, but in my mind, and I haven't lived in Canada, I just went to Canada, but you have the lakes, you have the mountains. Austria, you have the lake, you have the mountains. Germany, I'm not so sure, but I know there's probably also some nice places to be and to enjoy the lifestyle. So if it's just a lifestyle issue, which I think sometimes people see Switzerland for the lifestyle, you could get that lifestyle in another country. So again, my idea is not to discourage you from Switzerland, but it's more the realistic vision to say, okay, what is available for me with my nationality, my status, my training? And if Switzerland is just too complicated for the permit issue, then what other options are out there? And there's always options. If we look at them, if we try to think, okay, what could I do with my background? And what am I willing also to invest? So I know the people from non-EU that have come to Switzerland have made successful careers. I've interviewed one actually in my channel. She came with her company from India and she had a very successful career. She still does. So it's always different options, come through your company. If you have a company that can sponsor you to come to Switzerland, do consulting, apply via the United Nations. So all this is in my video, non-EU wants a job, and I'll also link it below so you can watch it again if you haven't. So think about different ways, basically. So that was for the job trends, the skill shortages that are needed. Now, in terms of what I wanted to add, and I wasn't going to add this at the beginning, but I thought it was interesting and it's also linked to this topic. So what are the most in-demand skills? So I talked about most in-demand professions, but what about the skills themselves? You know, what do you need to know how to do to be a successful employee in the future? So what I found via the LinkedIn learning research that I found, basically the skills in terms of personality and being able to share your opinion. So we call that persuasion, you know, share an idea and convince others. So all these skills will become even more relevant because the actual skills of entering data into a spreadsheet or, you know, all these very repetitive tasks will be probably automated. But if you're someone who's very articulate in the way you speak, if you're able to convey ideas and all these things, those will be in demand because employers will need people who can do these things since automation won't. So the computer can prepare the data for you, but you still need someone who can analyze it, talk about it, present it, etc. So that's why presentation skills, creativity, I'll talk about that in a minute, which I really find creativity is your way out of the AI bubble, because that's where you can really create something unique that is not going to be easily copied. So you make your own career potential basically in the coming in this coming and age, where you say, this is what I'm good at, and I'm going to package this in a very original format. And basically you see who is interested. And again, if it's not Switzerland, it might be another country, you never know. So creativity, persuasion, collaboration, being able to talk with individuals, work as teams is also very in demand. Now, in terms of more the hard skills, we call that in training. I go back to what I was saying earlier in IT. What comes up is blockchain. So blockchain is really big right now in Switzerland too. I just received a message for a conference that will take place now, also including women in blockchain. So it's a big topic. I already 2 years ago, I was going to meetings on blockchain because I didn't know what it was. And I was just curious to see what is blockchain. And I'm still not sure I understand 100% exactly what it does, except that it's basically linked to working better together and having data that's locked somewhere in the web that you can't change. So it's huge because no possibility of fraud. It's very clean in terms of the process. Now we have many people putting their hands in the pot when we do a transaction. Basically with blockchain, it's not possible anymore. So it's going to be a huge technology. So that's quite a big technology. Cloud computing also is big. Anything with machine learning. So for people who are watching this video, maybe it's getting too technical today about IT, but machine learning is very simply is basically people like us, humans, will train artificial intelligence to do our jobs. So that's what we're going to do in the next years, basically, until artificial intelligence is completely autonomous. You will have a lot of jobs available to teach, the system. And that's what you're doing already with Facebook. When you enter your preferences, when you like photos and you share materials, I know now I don't really need to search for things because I noticed that whether it be YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, they give me what I like already because they remember what I've looked at in the last days, and they realize I'm really interested into artificial intelligence or training, and so they show me what I like already. So that's teaching artificial intelligence. I've been entering all my preferences day after day, and now it's coming up to me naturally. I don't have to search for it. So that's what you will all do in your jobs, potentially working for companies, is you will train artificial intelligence in IT to do the work. So that's going to be a huge skill. UX design, business analysis. I'm not so sure. It was in the report there, but I wasn't so sure that business analysis. I've talked with business analysts, and they were trying to find their ways and not really finding a lot of jobs. So basically, I'm not so sure about business analysis. Maybe analysis with technology or something like that, but not so much business. Affiliate marketing, that's a big one as well. Again, that's very useful. That's how companies work now, working with each other and bringing each other business. That's affiliate marketing. Sales, I just talked about it, but sales is a giver, because sales, it's as old as you can think of. You were doing sales already in the old age, when you were exchanging products already, and trading and sales is really old. Scientific computing, don't ask me what it is. I have no idea. And video production. So video production, people who are in marketing watching this video, you already know it's the way that companies are communicating, and it's getting bigger and bigger. I haven't looked into it in depth, but I just saw quickly in some articles that in 2022, that 80% of businesses will be using videos. That's what I saw quickly as a figure. So, and more, again, now are using it for promotional purposes, to brand their business, etc. So if you're very good with video editing, and that's your thing, that's definitely a growing area for you to build a business, or even to do it as a freelancer. There's a big need for good video editing, good video production, and so forth. So those were some of the skills that were in demand. So already it gives you an idea of where you could go, what you could learn to be hot on the market, so to say, or find yourself a job, again, in Switzerland as first priority, but maybe somewhere else as well. So I'm just looking, it's about nature. I'm not sure I understand. So I'll just move quickly to the next topic. Upskilling yourself for the future of jobs. So now I talked about what the market wants, what the skills that are needed. So now we'll go into how do you provide the market with what's desired, or how do you basically become this employee that companies want to hire. So companies have needs, but now you just need to follow with this need, and you need to be prepared. So what a lot of people do is they'll say, wow, I love this. I love this field and it's my passion, or, I love working with people, or, I've heard all these things, working also as a consultant. I love working with people. But you see, that's just not necessarily plugging into a market need. So you need to translate your passion, what you love to do, what you spend time doing, into those skills. And that's how you can find a job. So to give you an example, if I say, well, I'm a creator and I love creating, and I say this during an interview, it's a little bit too broad. Now, if I can say to an employer, I know how to use equipment to make a video, edit it, produce it, and also use marketing around it, and share it in the different social network, etc. And I can build a Facebook campaign with a video, then I'm more interesting for an employee, because I have something very specific. So that's what you need to do. You need to think about what it is that you enjoy doing, what you have maybe as a passion, or you like to spend time on it, but build that also into something that's workable for a company. So remember, companies need people who can achieve, who can bring them income, basically, and who can be productive for them. So it's very basic. Company needs someone productive. So you need to prepare a good sales pitch for yourself of what you can bring to the company. And that's what most people don't do. They think, well, I'm a creator and I'm very creative. I know how to do marketing. Well, that's too broad. As an employer, I want someone who's very, very detailed in what they can do for me. So just think about that. When you think about how you can plug your skills into a market and the needs, look at the job boards, look at the job descriptions in detail and what the company really needs. And take the time. I guess that's what I also wanted to share in this video, is take the time to really look at the need of the employer. So before you jump in and send resumes everywhere and go all over the place, really understand the need. So spend, as much time as you can on one ad to just understand what the company wants, which is what most people don't do. So you're going to be ahead of the competition as well by really understanding the need, understanding how you can help the company with your skills, developing your skills. So that leads me to upskilling yourself. So take some courses. So if you haven't done so, take some courses to train yourself in the fields that I just talked about. So you're not an engineer yet. Well, what do you need to do to become one? You're not in finance, or you want to be in finance. well, look at what training programs are available. And it doesn't have to be, again, a formal program like a BA or a master's, which could work depending on the field. If you want to work as an auditor for a big company, for example, of course you need a degree. But if you're looking at more, the entry-level accounting assistant or something like that, they will be looking for experience more. So just look at the job description, see the level of skill set needed. And the reason why I'm saying this is because, again, people go with this idea that you need all this education. And when you look at the local market in Switzerland, most of the time people are looking for skills. They're looking for know-how, experience. So the people that know how to do the things that they talk about, not just people who went to school. So that's helpful for some of you because you think, great, I'm very good at what I'm doing, but I don't have a PhD in it. That doesn't matter because you may actually be successful. So that's the good news. But now the other side of it is that it still needs to fit into a market that's in need. So you may not have a big education, but as long as it's relevant education or relevant skills, then it doesn't matter. And of course, I mentioned it, I think, briefly, but language skills. If you want to work in the Francophone part, you need to learn French. So invest in that right now. That's what I told this gentleman when I did the video. If you want to come to Switzerland and work there, already anticipate it by learning the language. I will also post the link below of a lady that I'm interviewing actually on Friday. She's doing coaching for French online, so she has classes and very successful at it. So I'll post also the link of her website, so you can check her courses for French, and you can find probably dependent for the German part. It's very, very important. Language is central to succeeding in Switzerland. So that's important. Courses, so if you're training yourself, it doesn't have to be formal education. So I don't know if some of you know the 70-30 rule for training, but basically 70% of your skills are acquired via other things than a formal education. So I know I learned most of the things that I do by watching others, by copying, someone was making a gesture, for example, or when I was working in corporate, just watching my boss or watching my colleague or following them in meetings. That's how I learned, not by doing a formal training. So I think now you need to take into account that everything is available online. So if you need something, if I go over the skills I shared, UX design, machine learning, all this is available via training online. Or if you're looking at a university degree, make sure it's in there. Make sure it's part of the program. So look at the market, look at the job openings, read the report that I will share. You make a big summary of all this, and you say, okay, what do I like? What do I like to do? What does the market need? And which schools or trainings are out there to help me get the skills that I need? And again, YouTube has a lot. I learned a lot on YouTube, just people sharing tutorials, especially the technical part, video. I mean, you can learn everything you want on video production on YouTube, between editing, captions, everything you learn online on YouTube. And it's all basically available at your fingertip. So again, most of the skills that I talked about, you can acquire, I would say, fairly quickly by finding the right spots where to learn those skills. So that's easy going. Now, the last part I want to talk about, unless I see a question, but I haven't. The last part I want to talk about, if you say, okay, it's great, all these different skills are not really my cup of tea. I'm not really IT, I'm not really pharma. How do I find a growing career in Switzerland? Well, I would say go with basically human nature. So human nature needs three things. You need to eat, you need to have a roof over your head, and you need to take care of yourself, basically healthcare. So you just look at those three and you say, okay, which one appeals the most to me? And you can't lose, because again, those three needs have been there forever and they will be there after you. So if you go into the food industry, you always have people that need food. If you go into shelter, real estate, anything linked with housing, that you will have a job. And the last one, which I mentioned today, pharma, medical, You can't go wrong with that. I mean, right now we're in the middle of it. Everyone is going to China, so huge need right now for medical profession. So yeah, it's an area where people will need healthcare until the end of time. So go with those three. If you're really hesitant and you say, I have no idea what I want to do with my life, with my career, take those three needs, basic human needs, and you can't go wrong. If you're going to invest in an education and you're not sure of which ones to pick, I would say you can't go wrong with any of these three. And even if you were to move to another education or another career, you have a good base to go from. Real estate, again, very good training, and you get the sales that go with it usually. So it's very good skills for the future. If you have a medical degree or pharma, it's also something that's quite interesting. But again, with medical doctors, sometimes you can't take it with you if you move countries. So just need to pick something that's a little bit transferable. And then with food, anything linked with food restoration, opening a restaurant, opening a sandwich bar or coffee shop, that you can do anywhere in the world, and it's always going to be there. So I think that was the big part I wanted to mention, because there's what the market says and the analysis, but then it's also common sense of looking around you and say, okay, what do humans need in general? What is always going to be there? It was there before you and it will be there after you. It would be those three things. So yeah, I've talked about this in videos before where I say you can't go wrong with those three careers. So yeah, I think that should give you a good base of something you can use anywhere in the world, basically. But again, for the Swiss market, it's probably no surprise when you watch this video to see engineering, IT, pharma as being the big hubs of Switzerland, and where careers are growing and where you have potential in the future. And you can basically add to that a little bit of machine learning and tech, and you get also a lot of possibilities for people who are in this industry or want to get into this industry. Of basically, you add tech to everything that I just mentioned, finance, tech, IT oriented with machine learning. It's basically you're taking everything tech. Okay, the Swiss hustle said, what's your profession? Well, I was human resources for as long as I can think about, 18 years. So I was a human resources manager, basically, and now I'm a career consultant / entrepreneur, because I have other things I'm interested as well, that I'm looking at. Real estate is one of them. I just mentioned one of the three. For me, it would be real estate. But yeah, I'm a career consultant. That's what I would call my profession right now. And before that, I was human resources. So I worked for big corporate companies all over the world. And I came to Switzerland. I talk about this in my story, 2007. So yeah, I got to see the Swiss side of things. It's quite interesting. Lots of opportunities, but again, you need to have the right skill set. You need to conform with what's needed in the local market. Maybe train yourself. I also trained myself when I came. Even though I did have the experience in human resources, I did take a course in legal human resources so I can do contracts and understand a little bit the law. So yeah, take your profession and basically be open to add maybe some training when you come to Switzerland. One of them would be the language, but also maybe add a certificate that Swissize your profession. So that would be my recommendation. Anything that shows that you're really into the Swiss market and you want to work in Switzerland and develop your career in Switzerland would be helpful. So I'm getting a little bit, my mouth is a little bit dry now. So any other question? What's the dream job for most of you? What would be the dream job in Switzerland? Maybe you'll think about the answer and you can post it under the comments a little bit later. So what's your Swiss dream job? If you were to get a work permit and be invited to come to Switzerland to work, what do you see as being the Swiss dream job that you think would be ideal and fantastic and change your life? So we do a little bit of inspiration here. So what I will do is also put this in a blog article. I will share some of my videos that I've done before as well. I will share the links of the references I talked about in this video so you can check it for yourself and get additional information. And I think that will be it for this first Swiss Job Challenge video. So why the Swiss Job Challenge? It's basically information so that people can ask me some questions. People want to come and live in Switzerland and live and work, and who want to get a little bit more insights. I know people need market information. They need to understand how things work in Switzerland. So I will do these types of videos where I'm live and I can get also some questions to see what people are interested in. We'll try to make these regularly as time allows, so that I can be also, I can see what people are looking for, the type of information. So also post below if there's some topics that you'd like to hear more about. I have also done some research on the types of businesses to start in Switzerland. That's also a big topic for my channel. I know some people ask me questions. So which businesses would be interesting for the Swiss market to start? So that's another example, but it could be anything linked to careers. Basically, my field is basically careers and networking and entrepreneurship. So any of those three probably for the Swiss market is what you're interested in. So if you have any questions around these three topics for the Swiss market, you can ask a question below. If I see that it's quite an interesting topic, I will probably share a video just like I did now for 45 minutes to 1 hour, depending on questions, and we can exchange on the topic and move forward from there. So I hope it was interesting for you. Of course, you can replay it because I'm sure it will be in the YouTube. So feel free to watch it again, ask more questions as they come up. And I wish you a very good day, evening. I'm not sure which time zone you're in, but for me, it would be evening over on this part of the world. So I will talk to you soon, and thanks for being there on the show. Thanks.